Welcome back to the Winner Circle, where we explore how IT and business leaders can leverage technology to get ahead of the competition and win. I'm your host, Pavle Maidla, and today we're tackling a challenge that's been keeping many executives up at night. How to build a technology foundation that doesn't just solve today's problems, but positions your organization for whatever comes next. Joining me today is someone who's spent nearly 30 years thinking about this exact challenge and developing IT solutions that are both possible, permissible, sustainable, repeatable, and advisable. He currently serves as the Chief Product Officer at NexusTek, Mr. Jay Cuthro.
Pav, thank you, buddy, for bringing me on. I am just thrilled to be here and look forward to the conversation.
Yeah, very happy to have you. So Jay, just to go ahead and get kicked off, let's start with the big picture. So we're seeing organizations that are struggling with what I'd call technology fragmentation. And so, they've got cloud initiatives, they've got cybersecurity programs, data projects, AI experiments, managed services, but these often operate in isolation. And so, we'd like to understand what's driving this fragmentation and why is it becoming a strategic liability?
It seems like it's coming from every direction. I think if you're a leader of an organization at the C level, you may have a board. The board probably has members. Maybe they read something recently. All these companies are embracing and doing things with AI, and it may feel like you're not part of it. It may feel like it's very external to you. And so
Yeah.
this concept of outside influence has never been greater. If you remember, people were starting to say, "Well, what is AI? What does it really mean?" And they were reaching for everything. So, it's basically like when the iPhone happened, or this is like when the internet happened, and
Yeah.
those are two pretty big events in our recent IT history memories. And so it is the expectation that you have to be part of this, and if you're not part of this, the simple way I think the folks would say is like fear of missing out, FOMO.
Yeah.
The FOMO on AI is just ginormous at this point, and so trying to kind of separate out where absolute hype, begins and ends, and simply where pragmatic application of applied math, machine learning, to help businesses make better or more informed decisions than they would have made without that data.
Cloud has moved from being a cost optimization play and to truly becoming the foundation for a digital business. And so I'm curious on your perspective on this. What makes cloud infrastructure a prerequisite for everything else, rather than just another technology choice?
So I think of cloud, most of the promises that people think of when they think of cloud, the first is I can go much, much, much faster. There's an agility that I will be able to achieve, the so-called, if I have access to a credit card, I can launch internet infrastructure. So the
Yeah.
minute you get a little bit bigger, there's governance. And so one of the foundations might be is how do we control costs? How do we understand the inherent costs? Funny thing about that, there's also data charges in the cloud. So as you move data in and out, depending on the cloud provider and what you've selected, there are actually real implications for the amount of data you're moving in and out of that cloud, and not to mention what you're storing data-wise in that cloud. We haven't even talked about security yet, but just from a financial, exposure point of view, you can go very, very fast, and you can spend a lot of very large amounts of money very, very fast. Again, what is the outcome? How is it impacting and improving the position of the business? How are you driving towards an outcome? And so, in some ways, governance is sort of the one thing. So when I think of this as how we apply this to cloud and data, it's some of these things are truly analogous, and we can think of them that way. There's other things that are very, very specific. So when we get into the world of data and we start landing things into a cloud, who actually, what identity and what access do we want to associate with, and how do we manage that for who gets into the data, who gets out of the data, who can manipulate the data, where can they take the data, can we interact with other third parties? And these are all really interesting questions that you have to have. I would say you have to have a really strong answer for those questions before those questions are posed to a business. There's massive implications now for mishandling data. It's not uncommon. We're talking together in the United States. There's rules around that
Yeah.
now, and so the moment that you're thinking about handling data, if you sign up for a cloud, one of the most common things you'll get from your cloud provider is a list of processors and sub-processors. What they're having to do is disclose is, okay, if something comes in, if you use this third-party service, that shared responsibility between you and your cloud service provider. Yeah, there's this other thing over here. They're a third party, and here's what we need to tell you about what they have access to, what they do, who they are, what their compliance certification checkboxes are. And so this gets to these kinds of new words that we're trying to use more, like observability, meaning can I tell you through the entire chain of this advanced AI tool what was used to make a decision at this point in time? What were the weighted averages and things that went into that decision as it moved to the next set of decisions? What were those? And then at that time, what was the data available? What was the space and the time for making these decisions? And if it starts sounding like, boy, that's a lot of math you just added up, like, so you have the first set of weights here, the second set of weights here. And if you think about a decision tree in any kind of like call sequence or retention sequence or business process, each of those business processes, even if they're optimized, so-called BPO, if you entrust that now to a software layer, how do you trace those decisions through that business process? And if you involve humans, the humans in the loop, what are they making decisions on? Is that in a timely manner? The challenge is that just spinning up AI agents is actually quite complex. And so sometimes the headlines will make it seem a little bit easier than it actually turns out to be. And even at the most, the very tippy top of what you would call like just absolute excellence in execution, some of the companies that, I'm not going to give them, free airtime today, but like they literally name their conferences like agentic this or AI agentic that. And it sounds super seductive. The challenge is what I call ibbles and ables. And so anyone that's ever watched me before knows that there's what's possible, then there's what's permissible, then there's what's sustainable, then there's what's repeatable, and then there's what's advisable. But you don't get to just fast forward to advisable. You got to go through all the other ibbles and ables first. Everybody wants advisable. This is the advice. You should totally choose this. Is it even possible what you're describing? Do you have permission to do it? Is it permissible? Can you use that data? Yes or no? Is it sustainable? Okay, to get that data cost us like more than the total customer, account value over its lifetime. And let's say you do get that. Let's say it is sustainable. Cool, you solved one very specific business problem in one minor place. Can you now replicate that? Can you make that a repeatable success story? And then finally, once you've done it repeatably, you've proven it multiple times, you probably have something that's advisable. But I would caution anyone out there listening, like if someone's telling you like, yep, you should totally use this AI agent, blah, 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 blah. Cool story, but have you actually proven all these other ibbles and ables first? So anyway, that was a really long answer to your question, but that's what got me thinking. How we get there isn't always a direct line path. You do have to go through these sequences to get to the outcomes.
And that's a great explanation and tying in the importance of data, the importance of cloud infrastructure so that we can actually go forward and drive AI initiatives. But there's a third layer to that as well that we haven't touched on yet, and that's cybersecurity. And so, you know, with this whole mix of everything, with the infinite amount of data that exists, AI tied into everything possible, we're seeing a fundamental shift in the threat landscape, and it's no longer just about perimeter defense. It's about assuming compromise, building resilience. How does this change the relationship between cybersecurity and the rest of the technology stack?
It's interesting because of a couple things. One, the data analytics, like the whole sphere, it's older than I am, and I'm in my 50s. Cybersecurity today, when we talk about AI, is absolute table stakes. I would argue if you cannot secure your data, you do not have command of your data. Start with securing your data first. Then get to where you can command your data. And then if you can command your data, maybe you can do something with it, achieve that actionable insight. All that stitched together means that the complexity of cybersecurity is probably at an all-time high. And the thing about cybersecurity is it gets more seemingly complex each year.
That said, can you help organizations that might be thinking about building AI capabilities that are both sustainable and scalable, and fall into the ibles and ables, rather than maybe just handpicking the first impressive demo that they see?
I think the demos can be, again, to use that word, seductive. The challenge you run into in many situations is there may or may not be alignment to where they've already made significant investments. So if they are using IT today, pretty much a guarantee, they will probably be a vendor A shop or a vendor B shop. And so the first thing that you're going to do, whether it's your CIO, CISO, or a VCIO, VSO, so you're going to make sure that there is an alignment. And so what, again, going into that, there's possible and then there's permissible. And so that permissible chunk is really where we are at this point, ensuring that we're maximizing spend. So if there was a prevailing SaaS provider, would that thing work with that SaaS provider's approach to AI? Or are we literally talking about bringing in net new vendors to make this story real? So I think there's an exhaustion of what's already available in market that you would want to strongly consider before just going off and grabbing the first compelling demo. The demo that really captures your imagination right now, wait 15 minutes, something better will come. Now, where we go next in this is, again, with governance in mind, we ensure that if there is data that's been identified as this is where we believe the decision could come from, that's amazing. In my experience, it's very rare that the client will fully grasp. They maybe understand their business entirely end to end, but it's where data is created. And some of that data might be created at the edge of a network. And so connecting things that are disparate systems of engagement to known or well understood systems of record is one example of how a customer or client of a consultancy or a service provider of some kind reach out to that partner, determine if there's a way to, within your existing spend, your existing relationships, your existing vendors, figure out if there's a way to do what you believe you want to do based on what you maybe have heard from your peers. And it could be as simple as, I saw this great demo from this company. Is that something we can do right now? And I think that's a reasonable question to bring back to your providers and your existing vendors.
Looking ahead, we're obviously in a period of rapid technological change. And so today we've talked quite a bit about, the upfront, the actual building and how we can, lay the foundation and the proper layers in place so that businesses can leverage AI effectively and build out use cases that, fall into your enables. You know, Now, as we start to look down the road, how should organizations think about the skills required to manage them effectively?
Trying to get people to take advantage of training or enabling
Mm,
materials that you have produced, probably at great expense in your justification and your pro forma. People may not click on it. It's the reason why companies that exist only to give you back product utilization, telemetry, and metrics to understand how people are using your products digitally. Sometimes in the physical world too. Everything comes with a radio built into it. It's going to call home and say like, hey, if you didn't know, like when you made that combination of raspberry this plus your favorite soda plus this, that data is going somewhere. And there's a reason why if you're I think you're in Ohio, Pav. So like the
yeah,
reason you get like this orange vanilla twist soda option is because enough people went in front of those computerized, roboticized, machine learning, endpoints and said like, you know what, I want to put some orange and some vanilla into my soda. And
yeah,
that when you go to the store, who came up with this? And the answer is the market. The market came up with that because that's what they were when they go to their favorite pizza place and they get the little computer thing for the screen. That's why that flavor exists now. It's not something when someone just dreamed up in a lab somewhere.
yeah.
It was literally because of people telling the machine what they wanted, and then
That's incredible.
So I think of it like this: to get to that point where you have a flavored soda appearing of that variety and in the geo-specific places where they know it's going to sell, that's an absolutely beautiful use of data. I'm not saying it's great because it's probably rotting our teeth out, but my point with it is like it is an actual utilization. It solves a real business problem. How do we know what flavors our people want to drink? And any other business, you have to think of that. Like, what is the prevailing business problem you're trying to solve? And I think that is very informative for deciding where and how you're going to introduce any kind of machine learning, applied math, data, rigor, machine learning, now up to AI, let alone an agent that's going to do things that a human may have been doing in their capacity to be an agent in the sense of like a job description. So you got to start with that business problem first. Then start working your way through the ibbles and the ables. If you don't have that business problem, you're literally using technology looking for a problem. And I can't think of a worse thing for a business to do. Now, if you're a software development organization, you're doing research and development, and you're taking advantage of all the wonders of doing research and development within your business to express yourself digitally, that's probably okay. You're having to ship a product with AI built into it. But if you are not in the shipping software business as a company, you really need to lean on the stack rank of most important vendors that help you make actionable decisions and to determine what the appropriate AI feature is that you might take in within the period of time that you could, again, figure out what's possible, what's permissible, what becomes a sustainable thing that your team can do, and what's repeatable and advisable. And the whole thing about what's even possible starts with sometimes education. Go to that help menu. What's available? There are so many online free courses right now just around learning basic data literacy. I think that's a great place for everyone to start. One of the most common things I encourage anyone that I meet, you know what, if you're using cloud, there's a free course on cloud economics you can take right now. It will literally tell you how to do a better job of not setting fire to more cache than you absolutely have to with the very provider you're using. Seems counterintuitive. I think the
Yeah.
basic data literacy is really important. Sometimes it just takes a simple step in a one direction to give you, oh, I didn't realize that we could do that with our data. I didn't realize our vendor, already offers this as a feature. And if I know anything about products, is that, again, using 100 as an example, if you had 100 features, most people that buy your product are using less than 10% of those features. And so if it is going to be AI, again, stack ranking your vendors, figuring out which ones are really going to be useful for you, what's a low risk, early set of wins that you can get, and then replicate. But again, start with that business problem, and then move forward. But get the problem first.
With all of the leaders who might be hearing your message, and they're getting ready, they're already signing up for those free courses, and they want to make sure that their teams are ready and prepared as well. Once they've gone through those, they've gotten to the point where they are stack ranking their vendors, and they do want to have an understanding of where they are in their environment. Is there a place that they can go? Is there any next steps that that we could potentially help them with?
Yeah, so one of the things we're going to be doing with Winner Circle is don't take our word for it. We're going to give you original deep links that you can click on to take you to where you can be educated on these types of topics. The URL might change, but I'm really excited to share some of the things that people could click on to self-educate and go down the rabbit hole of data as far as they would like to go. You never know. Everyone, I think, has access to the largest, most democratized level of information, probably in the history of humanity. It's a fascinating time to be alive, as they say. So anything that you want to learn more about that we've talked about today, we'll do our best to put those links in place for people that do want to do that education.
Excellent. Jay, thank you for joining us today on the Winner Circle. It's been incredibly valuable. We really look forward to having you back again sometime, hopefully in the near future.
Thanks, Bob. Appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's a wrap on today's episode. Thank you all for joining the Winner Circle. And remember, the future belongs to those who embrace change today. We'll see you on the next one. Take care. Goodbye now.